Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, badass?
I'm doing well.
Great.
It looks like we're having a little bit of issues with Facebook. I'm going to try to get that connected. Appears that there might be some delays going on. So,
bummer.
So I just got a notification about that. So I'm hoping that it works out, that we're able to get it connected with Facebook. So we'll see. But good morning, Cate.
Good morning. I will talk about, if there's any new folks joining us today, maybe from LinkedIn, because we're still working on getting Facebook reconnected. But if you are joining us from LinkedIn and you are new, we'd love it if you would say hello in the comments, the chat. And if you want to, we usually have folks put a white heart, a white emoji, white heart emoji in, so we know that you're new, so we can say a special hello. But we've got folks coming in. Good morning. Bruce says badassery has commenced. Good morning, Bruce. Good morning, Stephanie.
Oh, yeah. So let me pull those up. There's Bruce and Stephanie. Oh, Kim. Yeah, it looks like they're all on LinkedIn. So I was trying to see if I could get things resolved on Facebook, but I'm not seeing that is working so far.
Hello. Happy Friday.
So, Cate, while we have people coming in and good, badass morning, Eric, I have to tell you this morning, I was dreaming and all of a sudden I woke up and I was like, oh, I'm going to go back to sleep. Then all of a sudden I was like, oh, what time is it? Because Jay left to go to his job early and he has to get all the way down for an early meeting. So I'm on my own to get things going with Riley and me. And I was like, oh crap, it's 8:00. So normally I wake Riley up at about 7:30, 7:45. And so I was like, hey, it's 8:00, get up. So I was getting everything going. And as I was getting things going, about 9:00, as I was finishing things, I had just like this feeling that Cate was going to be sleeping in and you were going to be running late and I was going to be doing everything by myself. And I was like, Sarah, stop with the negative talk. Like I was like, literally telling myself like, stop, like she's going to be fine. She's going to be, because I'd sent that text like, hey, what shirts do we want to wear? And
I didn't respond.
I was like, she's sleeping.
Oh, shit.
She's sleeping in.
Well, you were triggered. So, I mean, because in the beginning, like when we were starting this, and we were doing prep in February and March, there was just like one weird, we had set aside time to talk on Sundays. It was when Sarah and I started this, our goal was one of our goals was to, connect every week to talk about what we wanted to do for the next week. And we were trying to do it on weekends to do, we just felt like that was for sure going to be easier for us to manage with our work schedules. Yeah. And it was like, I could not make the time for the life of me. It was like 3 or 4 times that I did not show up on time, or there was like a really weird random emergency once, just like all sorts of stuff. So there were times where Sarah was like, is she coming? Is she showing up?
Exactly. So Cate, I'm trying to get over to the YouTube channel of our page to be able to add a link for those that are on Facebook that are having trouble. So I'm trying to get that going And so this is what happens when you have no behind the scenes people taking care of stuff. So
no worries. No worries. Yeah, don't worry about it all. So Carrie, I mean, since we have people on LinkedIn, they can see Carrie's comments, so you don't have to worry about pulling it up. But she said, "Happy last Friday of September. Is it just me, or has this been the longest week ever?" It has been a long week. It has been. But it did, I would say, like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday kind of dragged for me. And then yesterday was like a blur. It was my first day back. So I'll tell everyone. So when I missed our show 2 weeks ago, it was because I was having surgery and I was having a hysterectomy. So Sarah had a funny joke because she was gonna open with that story by saying,
"Yeah, you put an end to an abusive relationship lately, correct?"
Yes,
that's because of your post you just did.
Yes, I did. I put an end to an abusive relationship with my uterus and my ovaries. It's time for them to go. So I had struggled with endometriosis for a long time, or you know what? It's actually really hard to officially diagnose that until they take everything out. But I still had terrible pain, terrible issues. And I really tried. My mom was like a huge health guru and very into all sorts of medicine. She didn't deny Western medicine, but she was very much into all sorts of different things. So I have tried everything under the sun for years and years and years. And she was pretty anti-surgery unless it was necessary. So she was always like, "Don't remove body parts. Keep your body parts."
Yeah.
So, you know,
go ahead.
Yeah. I had some hang up around it. I remember calling Sarah and I was like, "I need you to talk me into this a little bit because I want to do it." But I had this hang up, you know? So I called Sarah and she was like, "Let's talk through this. This is your body."
Exactly. And you were concerned about, because you had this voice in your head from your mom and so was it disappointment that you felt like you might disappoint your mom, or it was just something she told you that you just clung to? What was it?
Yeah. I was never, my mom will tell you, I was never worried about disappointing her. I loved her very much, but I always did whatever the fuck I wanted. But when it came to my health and my body, I'm detached. I'm like not, I just have always struggled to take care of myself. And it actually does, I think, come from my childhood trauma, like a disassociation or a detachment. And so I have kind of outsourced that to other people over my life. So, like my mom was helpful and and Jenna, so like I took their input really seriously because I didn't trust that I knew, like my inclination was just to ignore this, and that's what I did for like 20 years, like I was literally miserable and just kept pushing it off. And I would try a couple things every once in a while and get frustrated and then not deal with it for another year or anything like that. So I think it was just, I was clinging on to it. And then, when a parent dies, everything that they ever said to you is so much more important, right? Or like it's because you don't have them to have a conversation with anymore. So you just, you replay these dialogues that you had with them, right? Like, do you do that with your dad?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad wasn't a big talker though. He was an action-oriented type person. When he did speak, you did listen though, because he never really, when he had something to say, it was always just, I felt like it was very important. And so, but The things I think I remember about my dad is, growing up, he was the Iceman. That's what he was known as.
Yes.
And so he delivered ice, and I delivered ice early on at age 9, so I helped my dad delivering ice. But I just always remember him calling his truck Betsy and bitch, because either Betsy, he was like trying to encourage her to keep going, or she was a bitch because she just broke down.
I love it. Oh, I love it. Betsy or bitch. Depends on the day, right?
Depends on the day. He's like, come on, Betsy.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's how I feel about myself sometimes. I'm either a bitch or I'm not.
Oh my gosh. But with this particular decision, I remember I was like, okay, Cate, what is it that you feel like you need to do? Because I was like, I don't want to make this decision for you. So tell me, like, what are the reasons that you would want to do it? And then let's also talk about the reasons why you wouldn't want to do it. And the more you like checked off, like, it was like, okay, reason to do it, reason to do it, reason to do it.
Right.
And so we just sort of went through that. But I was like, I don't want to be the one telling you to do it. Like, what do you feel you should do?
And I'm glad I did that, because I would have not normally reached out. I would have just struggled with that decision, made it anyway, but still like was anxious about it.
Yeah.
And I just was like, you know what? I'm just gonna, like, this is okay. It's okay that I'm good at making decisions, but, and so I was like, it's okay that I'm not this time, and I can just reach out and get some help and just explain,
yeah,
I want this, but I have my mom's voice in my head.
Yeah.
And, but I know at the end of the day, she would expect me to do whatever I wanted, and she would want me, to do what was best for me. So,
yeah. Now I know you're still going through sort of the recovery.
Yes.
You've had some ups and downs with like dealing with pain and dealing with, potential follow-up issues and things like that.
Yes.
Where are you now?
I'm doing pretty well over the last couple of days. So I feel like I hit a good stride. So yeah, I had a little minor infection, and then I had what I thought was a hernia, and that depressed me for a good day, because I was like, oh my God, because there's no way to fix a hernia other than surgery.
Exactly.
So it's like, and I was like, I don't want to do another surgery right now.
Yeah.
So
I was glad that was not the case.
Yes, it turned out to be fluid. And then now it's like kind of my favorite part of this whole thing, because there's like this fluid bubble on my stomach. It's not like I can see it and Jenna can see it. Here's how we discovered, though. This is actually very funny, because I got dressed like with a bra and like actual clothes for the first time on this past Tuesday to go to the orthodontist with Xavier. And after I got dressed, I was like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good. Like, so I went out, into the like foyer area, and I was kind of dancing, I was like, do I look like I've lost some organs? I was talking to the kids, and Jenna is like, she came around the corner. She's like, stop. I thought she was telling me I was doing too much. I'm like, I'm barely moving. She was like, no, stop. What is that? And I like looked down, and there was this like ball, where there hadn't been. And I was like, oh my God, I have no idea. She was like, how did you not notice this? I'm like, I don't know.
Oh my God.
So yes. So that was, luckily I had a doctor's appointment the very next day anyway. So we had to send pictures, though. We told the nurse right away I had to send a picture, because she was like, oh yeah, you definitely need to see him. And then, he was like, okay, it doesn't look good, but I'm, 90% sure this is fluid and not a hernia. So I was like, okay,
that's good. What cracks me up is you said, this is the fun part. I'm like, wait, how is that fun? I have a potential hernia.
Oh, what's fun now is that, that area, you're right. I got totally derailed. So that area that's filled with fluid feels like a blister now.
Oh.
Like I can feel it, and
how is that fun?
Oh, it's totally fun. It's totally fun because it's like a giant blister, and I could like poke it. And Jenna was like, she was like, hide all the needles. Mom's gonna be trying to pop her stomach.
Oh my God, Kate. I think we just lost some people. They're disgusted and leaving.
Sorry. Well, the title's shooting the shit, so you never know what the shit can be gross.
Literally.
I don't know. So that's the fun part is playing with this fluid collection.
All right. Definitely would have lost my husband if he was listening. He cannot handle any of these type of conversations.
Oh, well.
Oh my gosh. So Kate, some other things that I know that are going on. I have some exciting news that I can't tell everybody that but in probably November, I'll be able to talk a little bit about it. And I'm thinking maybe we even potentially try to bring this person on. That would be fun.
To talk about their experience. Yeah,
exactly.
It was an up and down experience. It's someone that actually a few of us here know, and it would be great to have that person on.
It would be.
So
I got to pull up.
See, Bruce, you get me. You totally get me.
Stop.
Yeah.
He's like, can we just do it right here? This is great video.
Yes.
Oh my God.
It's just, and it's also because you can't, like my skin, it doesn't look like a blister. It just feels like a blister. So that's the fun part. So I was just talking, actually, Stephanie Reynoso and I and Kim have a quarterly call where we where we shoot the shit. And then we talk about work and cold calling sometimes. Honestly, a lot of times we're just chatting, and that's why we only do it quarterly, because we know that. But she was just talking about on her trip to London, how she ended up with blisters on her feet, and we were so sad for her. She ended up having an amazing time anyway, but isn't that the worst when I think we've all experienced that, is when you go on a vacation and then something physical happens and it's like, this is the worst time for this,
I know. Well, we have a conference coming up, and I was like, I can't emphasize enough. Shoes, like good shoes. Like, they don't have to be dress shoes. Like, make sure they're comfortable, like comfortable shoes, because you are doing so much walking, because we're in a Gaylord. And so I don't know, those that have been in a Gaylord, it's huge. So you're constantly walking. I'm like, I don't really care that it's not dress shoes. I'm definitely not doing high heels. Like, I don't even really do high heels anymore. Like, I'm going to have some comfortable shoes. And Raina was upset, by the way, yesterday. I was talking with her. She's lost some weight, but with that, her shoes don't fit. She has some blingy red shoes, and she was like, they don't fit, Sarah.
Oh no.
And so I was like, well, you need to quickly, order you some of your blingy shoes.
Yeah, and then break them in.
I know. So Carrie said yes about the shoes. Concrete floors. Yep. They are the bane of her existence.
Yes. Yeah. And you don't know that until you're standing for that. Like, you think, as floor is a floor, but until you are a salesperson at a conference and you are manning a booth, you don't realize, and the pads, like, they will sell you the carpet that you go down, but they will also be like, would you like a pad underneath? And like me, when I was a young sales and marketing professional and I was planning my first booths, I was like, no, I don't want my budget to go for a pad on the ground. I was 20 some years old. I'm like, did not realize until I got there. And then I was like standing there, and then I walked to somebody else's booth who clearly had the pad and you can feel it. And you're like,
Oh
okay,
my
that's
gosh.
why they sell this pad.
Exactly. It's like, can I have the 4-inch? Do you have a 4-inch versus the 2-inch? However
Yes.
think you can get it now.
Right. Yes.
Pay for the pad. Exactly.
Yes. Right. I was like, okay, that is something coming out of my budget.
Uh,
Now yes, I know.
the place that I had like the worst blisters was actually taking my kids to Disney World. And I
Oh,
had like over 14,000 steps. And I was just like, oh my gosh, my feet were so sore and so blistered from just walking around the entire day. But we went to almost all of the different places
yeah.
in there, and it was just your feet are exhausted. The other advice that I had for them, other than shoes, was at night find a pillow, put it underneath your ankles so your feet are up. I don't know why, but that has always helped me whenever I do that, propping up your feet because of I think the blood circulating
Yeah.
back down,
Yeah.
keeping your feet up, that type of thing. It was always an elevation type thing. So I always do that. And then my feet always feel so much better in the morning by just having them elevated.
Yeah. That's a great one. I used to go when I had I used to do a lot of conferences in my career, and I would try if I could to get a room with either a hot tub or at least a tub. And that's what I would do. I would do at the end of the night is I would
Oh,
sit in that hot tub, like I would
put some
do,
Epsom salt in.
yes, yes, yes. And then, the drinking and the partying gets hard too, because you're often with your clients and you're like, so you throw alcohol into the mix, and, you got sore feet and you might be a little hungover, and
Yeah. I
these
was thinking
conferences are
about
tricky.
they are. I mean, you triggered me on taking a bath when Riley was little. She had eczema and had issues, and so we'd
Oh,
always have to give her a bath. And so but we also had to put baking soda in, which helps the acidity. Apparently, water still has acid, or acidic nature sometimes to it. And so I remember traveling one time, and I had my bag of baking soda, and it was in a baggie, and I was flying back,
so-
and my bag went to the side, and the TSA guy was like, "You have anything that's sharp or blah blah blah." All of a sudden, he pulls out this huge baggie with like all this powdery substance, and I'm looking at him, and I go, it's her. I'm like, it's baking powder. He goes, uh-huh. Like it looked like total cocaine. Like I was a drug dealer
just with your
with my
baby and
bag.
your
But he puts the stick in there and tests it, and he was like, all right, you're good to go.
well, so this reminds me of a story when at the same company or same job, I would also do local events around Milwaukee. And for the local events, I would bring some giveaways. And we got these like Swiss Army knives, like little Swiss Army pocket knives. And
Uh-huh.
we would give them away locally, as like, we'll help you cut through the red tape, or, like it was a shtick, and people thought it was great and funny. So, and then obviously when I would travel, I would, not take those because you can't take them on the plane. So I would take other types of giveaways, or I would send it ahead of time. Right. So I'm going through, I'm on a debate trip with, because I was also a debate coach for a private all boys school in
Yeah.
Milwaukee. And so I'm traveling with, I had 3 or 4 chaperones and, maybe like 15 boys, and between, high school boys. So we're going through TSA, and, they ask the question, and then they grab my bag, and they're like looking at
Your
it, and
what?
they're looking,
Your
my bag,
Your bag.
my bag. Okay. So they're looking at my bag, and they're like, and then I see their faces, and they're kind of like, like, what the fuck? Like, and all of a sudden I remember, I'm like, oh my God, there's like 20 knives in there. I'm so sorry. No, throw them out. Like that's, you know, this was right before 9/11, but still there was like 20, you know, I was like, no. You can throw them out. I promise. I'm sorry. But they were like, oh, because like he called somebody over. It's like, what do we got going on here? She's gonna give these all to the plane, you know, like you know, I was like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I forgot about, you know,
all the knives.
Like, all the knives. Yeah.
Gonna be just handing them out on the plane.
Right. Yes. I was like, no, totally. Please throw them all out. I'm so sorry. I showed him, I even showed him, I'm like, this is what I do for work. I'm sorry. You know, didn't think about it. And they were like, yeah, please be more careful next time. I'm like, right. Of course. I am sorry. You know, it was so I like accidentally.
Yeah. It's not like, you know, just forgetting your water. Oh yeah, I got about 29 knives.
Yes. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You know, didn't notice. Renee's talking about the conference too. She's already stressing about shoes.
I know, exactly. She said everyone huddled on that same small pad area.
Yes. It makes a difference.
Yeah, we have a busy October coming up. At least I do. I'm going to be on vacation. Then I'm coming back and I'm doing an event that's for sales enablement. And then the following week, we're then going to the conference, which is always stressful enough and just jam packed. Like, I don't think my husband, I'm not sure whether he has gone really to conferences. I don't think it is even his previous position, which would have been years ago, that he really has done that. He's only gone to like events. And of course, you know, it's all about alcohol and things like that for him. But for me, going to conferences are just nonstop, especially this one. I don't think that people really appreciate how much little time you even have to yourself.
Right.
But I would go, and even when Riley was little, like I didn't have time to like call, you know, a lot of times her. And also we found that when she was littler, it was better that I didn't call because she was, of course, upset as I was leaving. And if I did call her, we found that she would get sort of upset getting off the phone. So we found that it was better just to sort of have the separation. And then whenever I would get home, like she would just run to me and she'd be like, Mommy, and he's so excited to see me. But it's nonstop. Like you feel like you're on as a person nonstop. The moment you wake up, you know, clients are potentially talking to you. You're then going in, you're trying to have breakfast, but you're still on as you're having breakfast because you're still possibly talking
you're networking
with clients. Yeah. Then the whole, you know, so you're with sessions, you're then at the booth, all of those types of things. Then you have events afterwards. Then you're spending time, even if you're at a bar or things like that, you're still sort of on as you're with clients. I mean, and so you're looking at getting up like 7 o'clock in the morning, a lot of times going to sleep, if you're lucky, at midnight.
Right.
So, unless you're like Gina, who stays up till 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm just like, I can't do that anymore.
Oh my God. That's crazy. I can't do that either. I see Kyle is doing, Kyle from Open Asset. I'm bringing a good pair with me. Good.
That is like great.
This day and age, even, you know, like you can, like Nikes, a good pair of Nikes, like a nice looking pair of Nikes are totally okay. Yeah. Like they're okay in dress situations, you know? Yeah. I was just talking about shoes with the girls and I was telling him how Jetta was like, when we were going to a lot of tattoo conventions and that season's coming back, you know, she kind of set me, because I don't care about clothes, you know, that much. So she like kind of sat me down and she's like, we got to up your game a little bit. Like you can't wear those like old New Balances. And I'm like, yeah, but they're the most comfortable. And she's like, you look like you're 60, you know, like you just like, so we had to go get me a pair of like Nike high tops. But, you know, I think it's perfectly okay to wear those as dress shoes this day and age, and especially at a conference.
Yeah, I actually wear flip-flops or like slide on sandals, things like that, because I typically have some really comfortable ones that I do, and I also have some that are one that's black that has sparkles on it as
Ooh,
well.
yeah.
And so I like that. And so I'm gonna pull up Carrie. She said, anyone who says, "Wow, you get to go to conferences," has clearly never been to a conference. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And you're right. I can remember, you know, as a single mom wanting to connect with, you know, Oscar as a 3-year-old, you know, he was home with the nanny and I was traveling so much and it just wasn't possible. Because when do you know, like when you finally get your free time, it's 11 o'clock at night, you know, you can't
Mhm.
like connect with your little kiddo at that point.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's super, super hard, and when you have younger kids because you really
Mm.
miss them a lot, and just really appreciate and I find that I appreciate my husband even more after I've been gone for a period of time, like, you appreciate your partner even more as well.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Like right now, Jenna's been taking care of so much because I've been laid up with the hysterectomy. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh God, I'm so appreciative of you. Like how,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, you're doing so much.
Aw. Jenna's
Mhm.
awesome.
She is. But she lost her cat and I feel terrible about
I
that. I mean,
know.
it's so sad because she just loves this cat.
But it may come back, right? You don't know that it's officially gone, right?
No, right. It's a wanderer. So we actually have a terrible neighbor that hates us because we're gay, and he would try to live trap our cats.
Oh, no.
Yes, which is illegal. And he would bring them to the shelter and say like, "Oh, I just found this cat," and they would be like, and they would check the chip that's in the cat, and they would be like, this is registered directly next to your house. You know, this is like." So they would call us. We'd have to go pick it up there, you know, instead of him just bringing it over to us, or, you know,
Right.
or not trying to trap the cat for sure, for instance.
Aw.
So there was like some concern that he had done something like that. But this cat is an escape artist and is known for going to, so like there's 2 other houses in our neighborhood, or 3, that have like a relationship with the same cat, because she escapes and then she goes over to our friend Dawn's house and they give her treats and they pet her, you know, and then she goes over to our friend Tabor's house and they let her in, you know, like because she like yells at them and they let her in. She walks around the house, they give her treats, she goes out, you know, and then she'll go over to Brittany's house and hang out in her garage. And, you know, so like it's not unusual for her to be gone for a few days, but this is the longest that she's been gone, and none of those
Okay.
people know where she is either. So
Aw.
yeah. So what we think is she went too far and she's lost, you know, like because cats can do that, you know, like
Really?
if they go too far, they just don't
Huh.
know, you know, where they are apparently. Someone told us that. I don't know.
Hmm.
So
Someone on the internet. I don't know. Just kidding.
right. Yes, yes, yeah. Someone on the internet, a cat shelter person, you
Oh,
know, like who,
okay.
you know, who literally on the internet was like, let me tell you, cats can do this. And I still. So
Well, other things that have been going on, Cate. So recently it has been Daughter's Day, Son's Day, and I had also posted out about Blended Family Day as well. And we thought that it might be fun to also talk a little bit about blended families. And because you not only grew up in a blended family, but you have a blended family. I didn't grow up
yes.
with a blended family, but I'm in the blended family now.
Yes, yeah. I would be interested to know. So, who of you are either grew up in a blended family
Hmm.
and or are in a blended family right now?
Yeah.
Because it seems like it's there's a lot, but there's also some statistics around it you were telling me. So like,
yeah, I'll go back and find that real quick. And so whenever I had posted it out, let's see if I can quickly find that. It had to do with like 40% of, I'm in my I'm not in my page. It was like I think 40% of people are getting into a blended family each year or at this moment. But it also talked about how it was a pretty high divorce rate as well for people that are in a blended family, and I can understand that. It's a lot of extra work to be in a blended family, and I know you and I. Oh, what is a blended family? Bruce says, I don't know that term. So a blended family is when my understanding is that the official blended family is when you and your spouse have a child together, but you also have other kids. But I think a lot of people also see a blended family as you might have kids, they might have kids, and you become a family, almost like the Brady Bunch. So
right.
back when we were growing up, the Brady Bunch was ultimately a blended family.
And unique, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that, I just thought of that as I was saying that, because Cate and I were talking about how it wasn't that common. But then again, here it is, TV showing us things that are potentially going to start happening, and trying to, look at how, things that we're dealing with even back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was growing up, it wasn't that common. I mean, most of my friends, I mean, I grew up in a city that was, it's not affluent, but it's middle class. And when I was growing up, it was not very diverse, so most of the families when I was growing up, were just the traditional, mom, dad, and kids. Maybe there was a divorce, but there wasn't like a ton of blending. Not like it is today, where like, it feels like every other person is a part of a blended family in some way. So yeah, so my blended family happened because my mother died and my dad got remarried.
Yeah.
But he got remarried fairly soon. He had known both of my moms. He had known for years before getting into a relationship with him. Here's another funny thing about my dad, and he doesn't mind if I share this, but he has only dated, had sex with, and married 3 women. So he's an all or nothing dude. So he got married at like 18 or 19, to his first love.
Yeah.
They ended up divorcing because she didn't really want kids, and they were kind of going back and forth, and she had finally agreed, and my dad was just like, you know what, this feels wrong, like to force her to do this,
Yeah.
And so they ended up divorcing. And then he married my mother, and they had me and my younger brother. She was pregnant with my younger brother when she passed. So he was born premature and had some issues. And then he met my mom that was my mom for 40 years,
Yeah.
So it was pretty interesting, but she had a son from a divorce. So my older brother can remember a time without me, but I can't remember a time without him,
Right.
So because he's 4 years older than me and he has a great memory. But, and his last name was different. So that was always a thing too, because he was the older one and went to school and I came after him. And it was always like, oh, you're Tim's little sister, but your names are like, it was a big thing. Like,
Yeah.
His last name was Tecklin and our last name was Phillips, and it was very different, So, and then they had the, they had a yours, mine, and ours. So they had my youngest brother, Tony, was the ours baby. So yeah, it was just what we knew. And interestingly enough, I'm in a blended family now, so yeah. So tell us about your blended family though.
Oh,
I love how you call them bonus kids.
yeah. It's something that someone said, and I just caught on to it. So instead of say, I don't know, step just always sounded, I don't know, felt always so negative to me. And someone had
Right.
said bonus, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. I love that. And so I call them my bonus kids, because that's really what they are, is that they didn't come from me, but they're ultimately bonus son and bonus daughter, in my family. Now, ours is even a little bit more unique, just because the 30-year-old is not biologically Jay's. And so
Right.
when Jay met his ex wife, she was 5 years old. And not only did he propose to her, but he gave the daughter a ring as well to be basically her father. And so when they ended up divorcing, there was a period of time where that's not his daughter. And so he wasn't able to see her for a period of time. And finally, she ended up telling her mom, like, I really want to see dad, because that was the only dad she ever knew. And
Yeah, of course.
Jay was very consistent with her. The one that was his mom, or her mom, was a hairdresser, so she was gone during the evening time, and so Jay was the person helping her with school and those types of things. And even now, Kennedy is just amazing. But the thing she remembers the most, apparently, Jay did not like her to have her elbows on the table while she was eating. He's like, elbows off the table. And so for whatever reason, that is something that has
That's
really
stuck.
stood out to her about something about Jay. And so, but she's continued to be daughter for him.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
so I love that. And then he was in a relationship after Jamie, and ended up having a son with her. And but they ended up splitting early on in the relationship while she was even pregnant. And so I've actually known Gavin since he was 5 months old. So I met,
Mhm.
so they ended their relationship super early on before Gavin was even born. And then I met him like a year later after they had separated. And so then Gavin had been born, and I've known him ever since he was 5. So I was the one that was trying to put him to sleep. And whenever I would be over at Jay's, and I still to this day don't know what it is that she did to get him to sleep, but he was the worst at trying to get to put him to sleep. And
Yeah.
then we had my daughter. So she's about a little bit more than 2 years younger than
Mm.
Gavin, and so we have her together. And it's always an interesting part to be basically a bonus mom, a stepmom. And so
Mhm.
because there's a lot to manage there. Like,
Yeah.
especially with Gavin, I have known him almost his entire life. So you, in a sense, very much have a motherly instinct related to
Right.
him. And but you also have to figure out the balance of, this isn't your child,
Right.
as well. And so there was a time within there that was super hard for us.
Yeah.
And I don't mind sharing it, but I grew up with spankings. And that was something that I would get. I wouldn't get them, very often, but on occasion I would get a spanking. And that is what I knew. Well, she was against spankings. And I, in a lot of ways, became the disciplinary of between our relationships. What I found is that I really needed to release that. Like, I shouldn't be, as the step parent, the disciplinary person. And we ended up, like, Amanda and I really got into it one time about that. And I think back on it and think, wow, how horrible were we at literally yelling at each other at one point. And
Yeah.
but I realized that I was wrong in that particular situation, and I ended up having to completely release everything. I was like, look, Jay, I'm like, you have to step up. You have to be the person that is going to take care of all of these things. If
Yes.
something happens, I will let you know about it. And then you then have to be the person that then takes care of whether it's a spanking, whether it's, whatever it might be, but it's also making sure that you are the person that's taking care of the relationship and what needs to happen with your son. And so I
Yeah.
literally had to like remove myself completely for a while from the situation, just because
Yeah.
I'm almost like an all or nothing type person, and I had to like find my way back in.
Yeah.
And it ended up working out. But it was one of the things when I look back, I was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. That really wasn't my place. But it took it took some time of reflection of figuring that out. And so it
Yeah.
was funny. Recently, I had posted happy, National Sons Day. And I posted pictures that I had of Gavin, and Amanda was very sweet in what she posted back. And so I was like, you do realize, that we have also evolved as well, being co-parents as well. So it's a great feeling, but they said that it can take like 5 to 7 years for a family really to blend. And I know for
That's
us,
how long it took us.
yeah. So for us, it definitely took about 5 to 7 years. And I found the statistics. It said 40% of married couples with children in the US are forming blended families, and about 60 to 70% of those will end in divorce. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And so it
Hang in
really
there,
shows,
people.
yeah, so it really shows you how much stress it can put on a relationship, of figuring out the balance of not only you as a couple, now also balancing it with these kids, and then all the people that are also attached to them as well, and figuring out how do we co-parent together.
Right. I have great memories of my mom and her ex, his name is Terry,
Mhm.
co-parenting together. But it was funny because, and I also have great memories of Tim going back and forth. So like it was just how we operated. We had family in Appleton, which is a town that is like about an hour and 20 minutes north of where we live.
Mhm.
And that's where that's where my parents met. That's where I was born, So Tim's dad was there, and we would every other weekend go as a family. Tim would go to Terry, and then the rest of us would stay at my grandma's house. And I have very fond memory. Like we had a kid's bedroom, and my parents had a bedroom at my
Mhm.
grandma's house. And I like it, had there not been that element, I would have missed out on a huge relationship that was a very important relationship to me. My grandma was, and she was my step grandma, but she was
Yeah.
one of my favorite people.
You know what's so funny is that I didn't think about the fact that I actually did grow up in a blended family, but not directly. So my grandmother, I just called her grandma, but she was officially my step grandma. So my mom's mom passed away when my mom was 16. So he then, my grandfather remarried. So she's the only grandma that I ever knew, but technically it wasn't my mom's mom. And
Right.
so, then with that, grandma had 2 sons and a daughter, and so whenever I think about it, like, I don't really even think of them as step, just because
Right.
that's not how I knew them. But whenever I now think of it, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I guess I did sort of live in a blended family," but I just always called them, Aunt Ann and, Uncle
Right.
Jerry and Uncle Danny and, and then, my grandma. And
Right.
so I just realized that.
Yeah. Well, that's cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Terry would come to our Christmases when we were little. So Terry would sleep over Christmas Eve because we had a party in Appleton. So Terry would then come back with Tim,
Mhm.
and would sleep over on our couch. It was just a thing. And he gave us presents, the other 3 kids, he gave Tim presents, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was great. So he would just hang out all Christmas Day. He was just kind of a part of the family. And my dad, we all got along with him great. And by the end of Christmas Day, you could see that my mom and Terry were like done with each other, but like they weren't like bickering, but you could tell like they were on different sides of
Yeah.
but it was wonderful for Tim and for us. I mean, we can remember.
Yeah.
Um,
We
pull
got some
up,
comments here. Yeah.
yeah, pull up Stephanie's.
So we have a blended family. My husband and I always teamed up with his ex-wife and her husband in the raising of our son. We always spend time with them over the holidays. I'm so thankful for this. I've heard horror stories. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. And so there were some times that we originally tried doing holidays together, and I was just like I felt like we didn't get like our own space, and I was just
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I just don't think I can do this. Like, so that's what I
Yeah.
said to Jay. I was like, I just because there were some differences in sort of how we
You want,
parented. And so I was just like, yeah, I don't know that this is gonna work. And Jay's like, I agree. So we like stopped that. On occasion, we will like we've gone over actually to her parents, to Amanda's parents' house, and things like
mm-hmm.
that, but it's not like Christmas. It's been like another day, like our own thing that we've done. But doing it
Mm-hmm.
on the holiday, I found was like a little weird.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it would have worked out. I think personality wise, Terry, my mom was an introvert, and
mm,
and my mom, Tim, were introverts, and the rest of us extroverts. And Terry was even quieter, and more introverted than the rest of us. So I think
yeah,
personality wise, he just kind of like let us, do our thing. He was just kind of laid back. I don't think it would have worked otherwise. I can
yeah,
totally understand that. Um, we, my current blended family, we are blended to the max. It feels like every way you can be blended, like
mhm,
I was a single mom. Jenna had a divorce. We adopted, like we have all sorts of blendedness.
yes,
And when we have relationships with our kids' bio parents, and we've
yep,
tried the same thing. Like, let's have them over on Christmas. And now we just do a separate day,
yeah,
because it's something we want and we like, but it's its own thing.
yeah,
And I
exactly.
don't, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's even harder because then because you have parents, multiple parents, that would be really rough, to "Hey, everybody, come on over." But I could see, maybe doing a party, but I guess it also
Right.
depends on, like, where they are. Like, they're with you for a reason. They're not with their parents for a reason, and it's not and what I love about what you guys do is you try to help mend the relationship, but
Mhm.
also keeping in mind whenever maybe the parents just aren't quite there, you also don't want to harm them with whatever else they might be still dealing with. So it's like a very fine balance, which also isn't normally a part of the whole adoption process as well. Normally you're cut off. You have
Yeah.
no, until your parent is ready, you don't even get to see them whatsoever.
Right. Right. And they have no legal rights to see them. We
Right.
hold all the rights, but um, with both of our daughters, we work really hard,
Yeah.
to incorporate them. We just what we believe in. And so for our youngest, like right now they're kind of struggling. And so
Yeah.
we have an open, honest, non-judgmental relationship with both of these people, or
Yeah.
both of these families. And so, like they just say like, we need you to keep her for a while, like instead of having her come visit them, they're just not
Yeah.
in a good place for that right now, so
Right.
and in the case of our youngest, that's what she's known. We were able to incorporate that from the very beginning, like
Right.
we took her home from the NICU, but we were able to, almost immediately form this relationship. And that was all Jenna
Yeah.
called our daughter's mother like 70 times the first week we had her, and because she didn't show up to a court date. And we
Wow.
knew that she was feeling defeated because this was the third kid she had lost to the system. But
Yeah.
Jenna called her and said, "Listen, I have your baby, and I don't need to keep your baby. You show up. Let's do this. Let's support you." and we will, and we did, and we still ended up adopting her, but it was a choice they made. They decided to stop fighting the system, and they believed us that when we said, we will always keep you involved. And they were like, you know what? If you don't adopt her, she goes on to another foster family, they're going to adopt her, and we know they won't keep us involved. I mean, this is a beautiful little baby, and, so it really worked out. But
and I think that shows Jenna's heart. Like, Jenna grew up, I think, we had her on previously, and even though she had parents that she saw that she had parents that loved her, but she also had parents that didn't necessarily always have the means or the capability to give her maybe what she really needed.
Right.
But she still appreciated the relationship that she had with them. And so I think that that's huge, that she sees that, and she sees a different way of handling things. But I know that you guys have also had to balance things as well on, okay, maybe it's not, a good thing. Or maybe we don't tell the child that she's coming, because then she doesn't show up, because then there's disappointment in that. So it's almost like, okay, we'll let it be a surprise. If she shows up, she shows up.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah, we have, yep, exactly. We have, with our other daughter, we have more issues, but we still, she shows up, and we're all like honest about it, because a lot, these aren't circumstances that they wanted. These are circumstances that they are involved in a whole different cycle, a whole different situation. And so we work hard to do that, but just in the blending of our three, before we had Xavier, before we had the girls, I mean, it took us and it took us a while to gel and figure that out. And those kind of things carried into our relationship. I mean, it was huge. So my advice to blended families out there is, if you love your partner, dude, stick it out, fight the fight, get some therapy, do what you got to do, but stick it out, because it will get better. You will figure this out. And the stats are there to prove it, 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, you can't expect it to immediately happen. For some, it does. Like, someone else was like, oh, it worked out immediately for us. And it sounds like for Stephanie, for their family, it sounds like it happened rather quickly for her. I'm going to pull up Bruce, but so he said, I love this idea. I guess technically I may not be, but Julie is not Cameron's mom. Okay. And we are not married, but living together. Do the old style extended family and multi-generational community families with uncles, aunts and uncles, and their extended children and partners under one roof? I'm wondering, if maybe he's meaning that, does it apply as a blended family? Yeah. Growing up in working class Queens, NYC, this was actually the norm. Yeah. I mean, I grew up, my dad had 6 sisters and 2 brothers. And I remember we didn't all live together, but I just remember, like, Thanksgiving, our house was packed. So people that lived in our town, they had their own house they would go back to, but we had a lot of other aunts and uncles that lived somewhere else. And I just remember my house being like pallets upon pallets, and all kinds, people sleeping everywhere. And that was just what we grew up with.
Right.
Now Jay's like, what? Like, no, everybody has to have a bed. He grew up with just a sister, and so he didn't grow up this way whatsoever. So when my father was passing away and we had a lot of people come to our house, he was just like, okay, this is overwhelming for me. Like, it was just like too many people. So he's like stuck. He was like, okay, I'm going to cook. Like, that's what he did to sort of deal with the uncomfortableness for himself. But that's what I grew up with. It's just shitloads of people. I don't know that that's necessarily considered per se a blended family, because it's more like a wife and a husband. But I would say maybe even though you're not married, but technically living together, that is ultimately a blended family. With Julie, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, I grew, I feel like what I've watched, at least from just my family members, because I have three families because my birth mother, I have a whole set of family, so I
Yeah.
always had three sets of grandparents, three families. And, like my grandma lived with us for several years, and she lived with us up until her death.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just kind of normal. Like when she lived with us the first time, I was in high school and we shared a bedroom, and then when she was able to go back to her home for a couple years. And then when she came back, I was in college already. So became her bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then Jenna and I kind of did the same with Bob. Bob, Jenna's dad, lived with us.
Yeah.
And we're pretty sure that Jenna's aunt is gonna move in and take Bob's room. She's in a situation where she needs it, and I like that aspect. I like I like the
Extended
working class, extended family, you're all together, or like it's kind of cool. It's cool for the kids. It's it's I think it's unique and fun.
Yeah. I remember growing up, I also had other people that would come live with us. We had also my uncle. And most of the time it was because someone was dealing with some type of challenge in their life.
Right.
So my uncle, who was an alcoholic, came to live with us. And I learned a lot from that because my dad ended up having to kick him out of the house. And, that's super tough. And so I learned a lot from that experience. And I've also had people in my house. I've had two people come live with us. Neither of them were ended successfully. But I think that they're both on a better path. And I'm hoping that maybe it was also because, they had a support system or had people that cared about them, but also we got to a point like, hey, this is not working out. And we have rules, and that's what I learned from my dad with my uncle. My uncle was working for him, but as he was in my dad's truck, he's like flipping people off because he was drunk that day. And so my dad was like, look, like you're impacting my business. We can't do this. And so he kicked him out. And we had my cousin Bobby, who's no longer with us. She actually ended up overdosing later on in her life. And so, but she lived with us as well. And she was dealing with addiction and things like that. And I really learned a lot about that. And a lot of times what I realize is that it's again, past trauma or things that they haven't dealt with that they're using the addiction or they're becoming addicted to something else. To cope because they don't want to face whatever it is that they dealt with. And so I learned a lot about that growing up, seeing other people struggling with things. So
yeah. Like Jenna and I had our nephew live with us, and it didn't work out the way we all wanted, but we were able to support him for the time, that we had him. And his issue is drugs as well. So, but and we had other adults live with us that needed time, that needed space throughout our relationship. We just, that's who we are. We're helpers. So
Stephanie said, humility and grace are necessary. Realizing your opinion is not the only one and understanding your child didn't ask for this or create this. Yes. It's up to us to figure it out with the child's healthy growth. With the child's healthy growth is most important.
Yes. So, you got it right, Stephanie. I love that Carrie knows of Appleton. She's from Georgia, but where I was born, it's the hometown of Houdini. There's a Houdini museum there. I would be interested to know how you know that, Carrie, because it's a small, not tiny, but it's a small town.
Well, there
in the
was
middle of
something else
Wisconsin.
about Wisconsin on a previous show that she knew about Wisconsin as well.
Yes, yeah. Maybe she has family here. Maybe we asked that already, but anyway.
Yeah.
We're over our time.
We
But
are.
this has been fun, and I really thank you guys for sharing your stories and telling us
Yeah.
about your families. And thanks for listening to my gross story about my blister. It's not really a blister. That's what I'm calling it. It's just a fluid collection. It happens
Just give
sometimes
it a
after
name so I don't have
incisions.
to hear the word blister.
I'll call it George.
Perfect. How's George doing? Is George going down?
I think he is. I was a little sad this morning when George wasn't as big as he was before.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know. So, and also just to state, so Carrie was originally going to come on today's show, by the way. And so we are looking at a future one. She's trying to get things set up technology wise. And so she just said her dad grew up in Wrightstown, just south of Green Bay, and she has tons of family there. And she said, "Go Packers." So I know Terry within our company was leaving early to go to the Packers game last night. So,
oh, it's so fun. If you have never been to a Packers game, you gotta try it at least once. It's the mecca, I think, of NFL football. I know where Wrightstown is. I think that's where my aunt and uncle lived.
wow.
So I'm very familiar. So that's so cool, Carrie. When you
Yeah.
come, you need to let me know. We could meet up for coffee. I mean, Green Bay is an hour and a half from me. And because that's where Oscar was for 2 years, I kind of really fell in love with Green Bay. And I didn't think, I always kind of felt it was like kind of hokey-ish when I was, younger. But now I really love Green Bay.
That's awesome. Well, I would love to come up there, put on my cheese head, and go to a Packers game. So
yes,
I gotta have at least one of those.
My older brother, because he has a separate family, was willed season Packer tickets. So I do have access to some Packer tickets once in a while, but these things, so we are all owners of the Packers. If you buy shares, so the Packers are owned by the community. They are not owned by some rich person. So that is the other thing that is very unique. And that's why the Packers are so embedded in the community, because we, the people who have shares, own the Packers, and the season tickets, the list is thousands long and you can't get them, so they get willed down to people in their family. So that's how Tim got them, because his grandpa had season tickets.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah. And then they went to Tim's dad and they went to Tim. So Tim now has, I think they were split up a little bit, but so Tim, I think, gets like 5 or 6 home games a year.
Yeah.
So,
well, Carrie said, or she said, "Sorry, I couldn't participate." She said, "We'll get it planned soon."
Yeah.
So next week we're going to be talking about Wise Mind, by the way. And so that one should be a really good one. And then Roxanne, the psychic medium, she's out of the UK. She's going to be joining us on the 13th. And then Cate, we also have some fun things planned, or what we're tentatively planning. We'll see how those pan out for the 27th for celebration of Halloween. And so we'll see about who we want to bring up. We're actually looking at some people to play a game for that. And so I think that that'll be super fun. The week before that, we'll actually be doing sort of black and white thinking. It's the Goldilocks process, a Goldilocks zone of thinking. And I know that we have several other people in the works as well that we're continuing to solidify on through the rest of the year as well.
Yeah, we got people in the hopper.
That's right.
It looks like Carrie has family tickets too, and yeah, the shareholder meeting. And they hold meetings. You get to go as a shareholder and go and yeah, it's so cool. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should wrap up. I could do this all day though. This has been fun.
It has been.
I love hearing people's stories and learning about them, and it's been great. So we really thank you guys.
Yeah. Well, I hope everyone has a wonderful Friday, as Cate says. I hope this fuels your Friday, and we look forward to seeing you next week, which is now the beginning of October. So we're closing things out here in September.
Yes. Yeah. Go have a kick-ass, badass weekend, and we'll see you next week, friends.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.